To the LeapSheep Startup Builder live Q&A. This is the place for any startup founder to ask burning questions that are keeping you up at night and learn from our guest founders and startup support experts. And of course, LeapSheep's own startup building experts who've worked with hundreds of founders and their teams. Welcome, I'm your host today, Kirk Drage. I'm the CEO and co-founder at LeapSheep. At LeapSheep, we're on a mission to flip the 95% failure rate by making expert personalized startup building guidance available and accessible and affordable for all founders. Welcome to the founders that have joined us live. It's great to have you here. The show is all about supporting you to get from idea to build a business model hypothesis that can get to product market fit and then validate that it actually can in the real world before scaling up safely and avoiding that 95% failure rate. Thank you to the founders that have sent any questions in before the show. We'll get to those. If you've got any questions live, please drop those into the LinkedIn comment section or the Google comment section. I'm super excited today to introduce Shashank Agarwal from Noveum or API Marketplace. Shashank spent the last 11 years building large-scale AI and ML platforms. He's got an impressive career, initially part of the AWS SageMaker team. He's worked for Prime Video and has been in leadership positions at various startups across the globe. He's now on a mission to create the biggest AI model and API marketplace at API.market. Bring the best API AI models to everyone. Shashank, it's awesome to have you here. How's your 2025 been treating you so far?
First of all, thanks a lot, Greg, for inviting me here. I'm excited to be here and talking to you. And yeah, 2025 has been very eventful already, very exciting, especially like for the AI kind of space. It's so much happening every single week. I think like in 2024 end, we had like GPT-4. That was the best model. Nobody's even using that anymore. We're right at 4.0 or Quen or DeepSeek. I'm like, wow, things are moving fast in a good way, I think, so far.
Yeah, it's super exciting. Yeah, I'm excited to get into the conversation because I know you've got some great stories to share. But just to start off, I'd love to hear a little bit of your background of how the backstory of founders is always interesting. What led you to start Noveum?
Well, to be honest, I never planned to. So I was living in London. So I've been in startups for like a bunch of years, and I was like, hey, I need a break now. Amazon reached out and say, hey, we want you back. No interview, nothing. We just want you back. I'm like, okay, fine. So I went to London and started working for Prime Video AI. Now, the previous startup that I had was called as PipFeed. PipFeed was a mobile news app for reading news or anything. And for that, I had to make a lot of backend APIs. So one of the APIs was for scraping. So I had PipFeed. It had around like 4,000 monthly active users, but they didn't monetize pretty well. So I shut down the app, put the API on a marketplace called Rapid API, and I was just there, and I forgot about it. Now, while I was like 2 years ago, I started receiving money into my account like every month. It was like $100 at first, then it became $400-500, then it became 1,000, and I was like, "What is going on? Like this is free money every."
So you're telling me build it and they'll come. It works?
Yes, it never happens ever. I'm like, wow, making more money from this one API than I made from my entire app ever. So it wasn't Rapid API. And then I was thinking, hey, I can do something about it. Why not? I sell my own API directly through my own platform. And this API was for scraping. Basically, you put in a URL of any news article, it cleans it up and gives you the proper title, author, and everything. So I thought, okay, fine. I'll make a software which lets me sell this directly instead of using Rapid API. When I started building it out, I realized it's a lot of work. Like it's a big platform to sell APIs. You need to have the gateway, you need to have a payment mechanism and logging and analytics and everything. So I was like, hey, if I'm gonna build this, I'm not gonna build it just for one product. Doesn't make sense. I need to license it to other people to justify the effort in this. And I thought, okay, nobody's gonna want this, right? There's Rapid API and everything. So I thought, okay, fine. I'm gonna reach out to 50 sellers on Rapid API and ask them, hey, do they want to do this? Do they want this kind of platform? 25 of them filled my 3-page forms. That was surprising.
Wow, 3 pages.
Yeah, I asked them everything. I asked them how many API, like how many users they have per month, how many API calls are they handling right now, what features do they want, like they want authentication, analytics, what's their biggest pain and everything. No, after 25 people fill this form, I'm like, okay, I gotta build it now. Like there are people waiting. So from July of 2023 till December, I built it out like in my part time, every day for 3 hours from 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. because I was working full time for Amazon. So did that and then launched that in January. It was called Magic API. We launched with 8 different stores. Like there's a company called Trueway, which sells maps API. They're from Ukraine. They had a store. Pipfeed had a store.
Yeah, right.
Then there's a bunch of the stores were there. There are 8 different stores. We launched that, had paying customers from day one because we have been keeping track of all the paying customers and like, all the people who were on the wait list. But then I realized it's not growing. There were 8 different stores, and like each one of them had like 10 or 15 users, but they were in 8 different
Yeah.
stores. And then I realized, wait, this is not growing. What is going on? Then I realized that none of the companies.
So the build it and they come thing doesn't work.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, well, they were like, yeah, we built it. Where are the users? Why they're not coming? I'm like, you gotta do sales and marketing. And I realized they were not doing it. They didn't figure out the distribution. They didn't were not pushing out their platform. So I'm like, okay, I can do sales and marketing, but I can't do for 8 stores. Like, and in the future we'll have 100 or 1,000 stores. Like, it's just not gonna work. Again, went back and talked to everybody, talked to all the sellers, talked to all the buyers from all the platforms, and I realized, okay, we're gonna combine everything into one thing called as API.market. And that was launched in April of last year. So it's going to be almost 1 year now since it's been
Yep.
live. And yeah, everybody was happy. The buyers were happy because now they could access all the APIs and AI models into one platform. And the sellers were happy because they can sell to all the users. So that is like the
Excellent.
path how I led into API market. Had no idea or no plan, to be honest.
It's so interesting. I mean, it's such a common founder story that the journey for every founder that we meet is always unique.
Yeah.
And like you've described, you're working at a day job, you've done this as a side hustle, you had some initial success, and so when you do things that succeed, you tend to think, well, I found a pattern, now I'll repeat that success, and that sometimes is it's a false positive,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
And it's so interesting to hear your journey. This is the model that we use when we're coaching founders. It's a 4-stage model to get the product market fit. And what you've described is basically going straight to this initial pilot. It's the build it and they'll come. It's the build the MVP kind of strategy. And it just keeps working just enough that we continue to propagate the myth. And almost every founder thinks that this is the way that you start out. You need to get some resources, either bootstrap or get some capital, build an MVP, and then you can launch it and go chase a revenue plan, basically. And unfortunately, it works just enough to keep people going down that path and just wasting a huge amount of money. I mean, it's great to see that you've sort of gone back to this, what we call the pre-revenue market validation phase, where you've gone and interviewed customers, spent time with them to really understand what you need before you move forward again. Because it's so easy to waste money learning all these lessons. I mean, it is getting easier. I think there's more information that's out there now than there was 5 years ago. But at the same time, as we were talking about before the show, the rules of the game, the rules of startups, actually changing quite a lot now. You were talking about the fact that you've got quite a small team, and at the start of your journey, that was kind of looked down on a little bit by VCs that you were talking to, whereas now it's sort of seen as a benefit.
Yeah, absolutely. Like exactly like say a year ago, when I was talking to VCs, we were just like two. It was a 2 people company, right? And when I told them, they were like, "What? You were two?" Like they were like a bit. How do I say it in a nicer way? Condescending in some ways. I don't have a better word for it.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you're a side project. Like, why are you coming to me ask for money and everything like that? And now if you're a big company as a startup, it's pretty bad. Like now I tell them,
Yeah.
hey, we are now like 4 or 5 people. Like, oh wow, that's amazing, that's great, like keep it up. The mental model has entirely shifted.
Shifted. Yeah. I think Roan's got a great question in the comments here. Is it better to bootstrap or achieve product market fit or raise? And I think, my unequivocal answer to that is generally bootstrap as far as you possibly can.
Yep.
And I think that the unknown for most founders, that completely changes the equation, is just realizing how much you can get done with, so little time and so little capital to de-risk your idea and validate some of the assumptions.
Yeah.
And that's generally not building product, right? You don't have to have a product
Exactly.
to get out there and start selling.
Yeah. So on that question, so this is a very important one, right? So I learned that a lot of people think that if they don't raise, they cannot make a company or a startup. So if you think that, it means it's most likely going to be that you're not going to build that company. Like the people who actually build the company are going to build that startup, no matter if they have money, no money, doesn't care. They will build it.
Yeah.
And because they don't care about this, they're going to be offered money. That is a weird conundrum. The easiest
Yeah.
time or thing when you can get a lot of money is when you don't need it, to be honest. Like if you're going to start up doing every good, growing fast, have a lot of revenue, why would you need investment? And that's a time when everybody's going to put money in your face. Hey, take my money.
You become a surer bet, less risk, so investors want to invest in you.
Exactly.
It's ironic, right?
Now on the
I think
please go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think it's an important distinction that many founders don't learn about right from the get-go of their journey, is that there's kind of two types of startups. Those startups with technical risk that are actually building something genuinely new from a technology point of view and have technology risk. And OpenAI is probably the canonical example at the moment of that kind of startup, versus most startups, which I call disruptive innovation using MIT's sort of taxonomy. And most startups are just packaging proven technologies in new and interesting ways, new and interesting business models. So think about, companies like, maybe Dropbox or Slack, or, they're using proven cloud mobile technologies. It's not to say that they're not doing a little bit of technical innovation, but it's mostly a sort of a packaging and business model value proposition risk, which is still super risky because you're building not only a new product, but a new kind of product. But it means that the investors that you go after actually are a little bit different.
Yeah. See, in the end, it depends, right? What you are building, and it also depends the amount, like the network and capital available to you. And one thing you learn about the world, that it's unfair, and that is the truth. That's how it is, right? Some people have an amazing network; they can raise like 100K or like 1 million in like a week if they want to. It's the way it is, and some for people, it's never gonna be possible, right? Or it's gonna be really, really hard as well. Now, being said that, almost every single founder who has raised money and built successful companies, every single one of them has told me, bootstrap if you can. Like they will say, bootstrap if you can. And I'm like, why? We have investors, we can raise money. It's like, dude, just bootstrap if you can. Raise only when you are sure about what you're going to build.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Patient capital is your own capital. And like I say, you can get so much further than you think with less capital, with counterintuitive approaches.
Yeah.
And that's the trick.
And if you really like need any like some money to get started with, get it from like angels, like family and friends, kind of stuff first. Like first figure out what are you gonna build, talk to customers, have those things, and then you know, okay, we are fine now. We have some signals on what we're gonna do. Then you go out and raise based on that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, Rain, I see you're asking about product market fit. I think it's really important to have a very disciplined definition of product market fit, which is I don't think we do a particularly good job of as a startup industry, is having disciplined definitions for anything. Actually, product market fit is definitely one of those. And I think having a disciplined definition of product market fit, where you now have more demand coming from the market to pull the product out of your company, essentially because you've created fans and advocates. So for every customer you're selling, those customers are now becoming proactive advocates that are sending you more customers. Until you get to that point, you haven't really got to product market fit, because that's the thing you need to create the positive feedback loop, to create the hockey stick and product market fit. And so many founders, so many investors, they talk about product market fit very casually, and not with that level of discipline, and they try and scale businesses before they've really reached product market fit.
Yeah, there is like a famous saying as well in product market fit. Like as a founder, when it happens, you will feel it. right? You will know
Yeah.
when you have hit PMF, and it depends. Yeah, you're right. Like it depends. Like in the comment as well, right? Like it could mean 0 to 10 customers. For example, if you are like
Yeah.
company like Anduril, you have just one customer, the U.S. government. That they're selling
Yeah.
weapons, and that's it. That is their PMF. If they're able to sell to
Yeah.
government, they're done. Right? For
Yeah.
consumer app,
100%.
it's gonna be like 100,000 people, and still you might not have PMF.
Yeah. Yeah. I try to avoid that answer of when you've got it, because it's not helpful for
Yes.
founders. I really like the definition that once you can reliably create advocates, where an advocate is a paying customer that's going to send you more customers. Once you can do that,
Yeah.
you're at product market fit.
When instead of pushing your product into the market will start pulling the product out of you.
Yeah. And I think the counterintuitive and surprising thing for most founders that are sort of early in their journey is just the number of iterations that you're going to need to figure out what kind of customer experience do you need to build to get to that outcome.
Yeah, and even the right product, right? Like there are a lot of stories like of people pivoting and mentoring. Like for Slack, right? It was totally entirely different game. It was a gaming company making a game, actual game.
Yeah.
Imagine like Slack.
Yeah.
That and they moved into a messenger thing, like a gaming
Yeah.
company moving to corporate messenger kind of stuff for productivity.
Yeah. But completely customer driven,
Completely.
right? It's customer
It
driven.
has
That's
to
what it's
be.
all about.
That's the only way you can
Yeah.
make a company, right? If you need to make it for the customer. That's what you're doing. You're trying to solve their problem. You're not saying, "Hey, I have this amazing product idea that I think everybody will love." No, you ask, "What do you want in the end from the customers?"
Yeah.
Right?
So I'd love to tap into your AI specialization and understanding, just to ask you, where do you think we're going to be in 5 years with AI? What does 2030 look like in software and startups and
I
AI?
am like super excited about the future. I'm very, very bullish. I think we are not even at like say 1% of what AI is going to be in the future. And the kind of stuff that I see happening and people building and the trends, they are pretty hard to comprehend. Right? For example, like this year alone, the AI models, LLMs, okay, there are three kind of things which are driving this, right? The first one is the cost of GPU and inference. And NVIDIA has said it's going to be half in 12 months. Like whatever you're paying
Mm.
for GPT-4 or any image model or VO2, anything in the world is going to be half by the end of this year
Wow.
across the whole globe. AI is going to be half the price.
Yeah.
Then this year we had some crazy algorithmic improvements. They made training a new model, doing inference 10x cheaper. Like 10x doesn't happen normally. 10x is
Yeah.
1,000%. Like that's why it was much cheaper to train DeepSeek as compared to GPT-4.
Mm.
10 times price difference from $500 million is going to cost like 50 million right now, and it's going to cost
It's crazy.
5 to make GPT-4 in like 6 months. So if I say like about the future, a lot of amazing crazy stuff is going to happen, like the applications of AI and the kind of video models I'm seeing right now, like text to video, which means that you just can write a screenplay and you can make a whole movie. That is happening
Yeah.
already right now, and in 5 years it's going to be available to anybody in the world to do that.
Yeah. Wow. And I think about the evolutions of products and services, and how much optimization and refinement goes into creating great products. I mean, I was listening to someone talk about the invention of the plastic soda bottle,
Right.
and I don't know if you remember when the first plastic soda bottles come out, they actually had a cap on the bottom of them, because the bottom was completely round,
Mm.
and so they couldn't stand up without having a plastic cap on the bottom to hold the pressure. And then over time, they developed that pedal leaf kind of thing that we're familiar with today. And I think you're absolutely right with the AI models. We're working with such raw models that have really had no time to undergo any kind of refinement. And I agree with you. I think the trajectory we're on is hard to comprehend. Which leads me to my next question. How do startups think about this? If you're a startup today, are you going to survive if you're not using AI? to both build your product and include AI in your product? How do you think about that? How would you advise founders?
Yeah. So for startups, I have like two different kinds of recommendations, right? The first one is you need to use AI to in your company in general to help your employees, to help everybody out. It's the same as, right, if you imagine companies who have internet and computers and companies who don't have internet and computers, it's going to be that. And you can see what has
Mm.
happened to the companies who don't are not on the internet have, and don't allow laptops or whatever, they're not there anymore. There was a time when both existed at the same time. And that's
Yeah.
what I think is going to be with AI as well. You got to allow your employees, your everybody at the company to use AI tools to get work done. It could be talking to Chat GPT. If there's a developer, you need to give them access to Cursor AI. You gotta sponsor. Like even at API.market, we every employee has $50 every month, which they can spend on any AI tool at all. Don't need any
Yeah.
approvals or
Right.
anything. Then the second question is putting AI into the product. I think a lot of people, a lot of companies are messing that up right now. They are shoving AI into a product where it's not actually needed, right?
Yeah. It's vanity AI rather than, valuable AI.
Yes, exactly. Like everything had a chatbot, which is fine, and they're putting AI into stuff where it doesn't matter that much having an AI or not. But I think there are a lot of products in which they used to have a lot of like slow or a bottleneck kind of thing or problematic things in the past that can be really solved with AI. Like for example, there is a company I know in India. They're looking at stock market signals and everything. Now, when you do all of that, in the end, you have to make a report that you send to the companies. That report would take 1 day or like 12 hours. Now it's instant and at scale. Now
Yeah.
their business is exactly the same. They are still selling the reports, but now they can do it much faster with AI. And the customers will not even know that this is made using AI or any. So in those kind of scenarios, I see AI providing a lot of value, and we have not really unlocked. There's so many use cases of AI model I see every single day. We are just like scratching the surface of what AI can actually do to solve these problems at businesses right now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it all comes down to the use case, doesn't it? And focusing on the problem, and that's why I love this. I love this disruptive innovation journey, because the first stage of this journey is finding the right kind of problem.
yeah,
Are you in a market where there's enough people with the same sort of problem, so you don't have to do a huge amount of customization? And is the problem valuable? Can you create those kind of orders of magnitude more value than the current alternative? And if you can't, there's probably a better market to go after.
absolutely. Yeah, very well said.
Yeah. So in terms of building teams, there's this remote working kind of discussion that's been going on for a while since COVID. How do you think about that with the integration of using AI and remote teams and those issues?
Yeah, what I think about it, I think it depends on your company and your startup culture and everything that you are trying to build and what you are building, right? For some things, for some kind of products, for example, like say SpaceX, it can't be remote,
Hmm.
right? You got to build a rocket, physical stuff. You got to be, everybody has to be there in that one building,
Yeah.
right? But for a lot of software, I believe it's an advantage to be entirely remote. Like we are all entirely remote right now. And if we were
Yeah.
to have an office and have everybody come to the office every single day, it would be like 3 times more what we are spending right now immediately.
Mm.
Because
Yeah.
people, you cannot afford a lot of people who are remote. Like it's easier. The people who are
Yeah.
remote, then you have a bigger pool to select people from, basically, right? I can now hire
100%. Yeah.
across the entire globe. Unless, like, if I had an
Yeah.
office, okay, I can hire only from that city on the people who can come to the office every day. That's
Yeah.
one thing. Now, in terms of building great AI teams, AI experts are expensive and rare right now. Like they're a rare commodity. It's pretty hard to find good AI engineers and be affordable at the same
Mm.
time. So it's kind of becoming a necessity or a like thing that, hey, I cannot hire in my city. I'm in Bangalore right now, and the salaries for good AI engineers is over the roof. In India, where the
Mm.
salary used to be cheaper and everything, it's like 100K or $150,000 right now. What any mid-level AI engineer makes in India and Bangalore right now. That's a lot for here,
Yeah.
for the standards and everything. So I think people will have to do this. They will have to have AI engineers across the globe. That's the way you can get affordable, really good people right now.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think, your point is really well made. And that is that wherever you are in the world, just statistically, the best value for money team members are likely to be in another location.
Yeah,
And so if you're not equipped to manage a global team, then you're going to be paying more. That's just a simple reality. You're going to be paying more to build your startup than the competition that does know how to hire and manage a team globally. Makes complete sense. Let's jump into a couple of questions that have come through before the show. So I've got a question here from Maya, who's building an AI tutor for high school students, but they are not AI experts. Do you have any recommendations for them how they can engage with AI experts, either to help build or validate, or what's your advice for Maya?
okay. Uh, Let me think. Okay, good question. So, if I was going to start this thing out, first I will figure out who is the paying customer in the end, right? Is it going to be colleges or schools or parents? Because high school students probably won't be paying. Now, why do I say that? Depending on that, your UI, what you are building, will depend on that. If you're building for students and your paying customer is colleges and schools, you got to make the platform for the schools who can then give it to the students, right? Now,
That's a good answer.
about the AI. Well, my first thing would be is learn. Like read as much as you can AI. What is an API? What is what you can use AI? And for all of this, just start talking to ChatGPT. That is the best AI expert you can get right now, which can literally tell you what are the best AI models right now for your specific use case. How much is it going to cost? And that's my recommendation would be, like, nobody can answer this question for you, to be honest. You have to figure it out for your own startup, for your own use case, for your own users. But you have all the tools
Yeah,
available in the world. Previously, I would say
yeah,
to get a 1 hour call with a AI expert, pay them like a $200 or $100 whatever amount, and talk to them. Now you don't need to do that. Talk to ChatGPT, Anthropic, whoever.
yeah. I love your initial answer goes straight to the customer. Who is the customer? Because they define what quality is. And I think this is a big challenge in the startup space, particularly if you've been a tutor, you go, well, I know I've been tutoring for 10 years. Surely I know what's required to build a system. That's a really bad assumption. So go straight to your customer and get them to guide you, because the problem with any expert is you've forgotten what it's like to be a novice,
Yeah.
and you're likely to be helping those novices, right? So that's such a good answer. I love that you went there. And then the second thing that you said there is around you've got to skill yourself up to know what quality is. Whenever you're managing an external party on anything, whether they're whether you're going to a restaurant, if you don't know what quality food is,
Yeah.
then you might get served rubbish. But as soon as you understand what quality food is, you can say, well, I like this, and this is well cooked, and it's nice, and this one's not. And I think that's the mental model that I use whenever you're learning to engage graphic designers or lawyers or software developers or ML engineers. If you can't understand what quality is and what it isn't, you can't manage a third party. And if you are, you just have to go with blind faith, and that's a really bad strategy, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree with that. To add to it,
Yeah.
one thing I've observed in non-tech founders, they are like very scared of tech. They're very scared of getting their hands dirty. Like there was this
Mm.
founder and they had a pretty good tech product, solo founder and everything, got a team to build out the product and everything. And I asked her, hey, can you just run this code on your laptop? Like, no, I don't know how to do that. I'm like, you are the CEO and founder. You gotta know how to run your own product. That's like having a Ferrari, right, in your garage, but you have no idea how to run that at all, how to drive it.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
would recommend, it's
Yeah.
fine. You don't know
True.
tech or stuff, but get your hands dirty a little bit. Like understand what it's not that hard.
Yeah, totally. I've got a question here online from Dovey or Dovey. It's building a marketplace in the hospitality space, and I mean I love this market space question because marketplaces are great, but there's also a lot of risk in building a marketplace. So have you got any advice, because you're building a marketplace, on how to cope with that problem?
Yes. First of all, marketplaces are hard. Like they appear pretty like straightforward. Yeah, I'll make a marketplace. I'll have people will come, but it's really hard to build a marketplace, especially when you're just starting right now. The first thing you gotta figure out is have a lot of services or product to sell. You got to figure that out first before you even have any buyers. You can't say, hey, we'll have buyers and then have sellers. You got to have sellers first on the platform. Sellers will not come if you don't have buyers, right? That is a weird conundrum, right? If there's a big seller, he's like, you are starting out, why would I sell on your platform and everything? So there are a few things you can do there, right? Which is find a way to get a lot of products on your marketplace when you start, whatever it may be. It may be hospitality, it could be AI models, it could be anything. Find some way. Maybe if you don't make any profit, get stuff from other marketplaces, put into your marketplace and sell at zero cost or zero profit or anything. You got to build that thing. That's the initial thing. You got to build your distribution somehow, and that is the most important thing in a marketplace, right? You need to have a large number of customers who are willing to buy stuff from your marketplace by themselves. To get to that, you need to find a way to get a lot of products. So again, it depends on what you're trying to do and everything, but in the end, it's an ever revolving kind of problem. You need more sellers and you need more buyers, and buyers come if there are a lot of products they're selling, and sellers come with a lot of people who are buying. So my advice is
Yeah.
seed your market somehow.
Yeah. Yeah, great advice. I think the advice, number one piece of advice I'd give, and I'd sort of bring up this model again, is this journey of managing startup risk, where you really need to deeply understand the problem that you're solving on, and particularly if you've got a two-sided marketplace on both sides. What does success mean? Even if you're only charging on one side, like Google, for example, you've got to deeply understand the problem and what's the dream outcome that each side of the market requires. And if you're not following this kind of risk mitigation path to validate your product on both sides of your market to product market fit, you're going to fail, because you've got to get a product market fit now with two markets, essentially, not just one. And so my number one tip to marketplace founders is, if you can possibly start by building a solution that's not a marketplace, like a one-sided marketplace, and then evolve into a two-sided marketplace, that's a way better strategy for most founders. But everyone's unique, and you kind of need to dig down to figure out your unique circumstances.
Yeah.
But fabulous question. Let's jump into another question here that came in before the show. This is from Arjun. We're trying to use AI to predict energy consumption patterns, but training custom models is draining our small team. Are there pre-trained models we can plug in and trust?
Interesting question. Okay, now I am not exactly sure if they're pre-trained models for energy consumption patterns. That is something you'll have to do it or figure it out yourself. But what I can assure you that there are a lot of APIs which give you this exact data of energy consumption right now per timestamp across the globe, USA, region, city, that is available. So my recommendation to them would be is in the end, right? If you're making AI to predict energy consumption patterns, you need to build that model. That is your IP. That is your core product. You gotta work on that. That is literally what you are selling. That is the whole company,
Yeah.
right? In this one line that I can see here. So yeah, you would be a small team, but that is what you're gonna do, right? You're gonna build that thing out, which is gonna predict the energy consumption patterns in, and that is something you should build in house. That is something which you want your team to be really good at and have that core knowledge which is in the company.
100%. And having worked with a lot of startups in this space and invested in startups in this space, you really want to validate the problem side and who will pay.
Exactly.
Because one thing to be able to create a model that will do this, it's another thing to be able to create a service that people will pay for.
Yeah.
And don't overinvest in the engineering. That's for sure.
Yeah. Like to double tap on that previous question, people start building really complex stuff in the start. I don't get it sometimes. Like all the if for example, if you're an ex FANG engineer, like you worked at Meta or Apple or Google or Netflix, you are used to creating really gigantic systems, and I've seen that. Like one of the startups I was helping out, one of they had a consultant and they were hiring somebody who said, "Hey, we're gonna use Kafka for processing something." I'm like, "Wait, how many users are you gonna have?" "Oh, we're gonna have thousands of users and this and that." I'm like, "No, no, no, come back. How many users are you gonna guaranteed have in the next 5 6 months?" He said 500.
Yeah.
And I'm like, for 500 users, just get one big machine. That's it. And everything can run on one Linux box. That's it. Don't
Yeah.
overcomplicate. Try to do something simple, sell it first, find what your customers want, and then use have scaling problems and all that later on.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, tech debt that we used to talk a lot about in the startup world is not what it
But
was. It's much easier to refactor now, isn't it?
no, yeah, absolutely. The most important thing in the startup is speed. Like you gotta do
Yeah,
it
100%.
fast.
Yeah.
Spend
And customer validation, getting things in front of customers and validating it.
yeah, get to it.
And if you have to rebuild it later, you have to rebuild it later.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Another question here from Ben Lister. G'day, Ben. Good to see you. Ben's running a AI consultancy, working with customers to help put AI solutions in place on the journey to look for a product company to build. And he asked, what are some of the lesser known but highly effective applications that startups should consider for AI?
Yeah, sorry, can you please repeat the question again?
He's asking, what are some of the lesser known but highly effective applications? What are some of the use cases for AI, essentially, in
Oh,
business?
yes. People, I think people have not even scratched the surfaces right now for AI. I can go into any industry right now, and there's so many applications. I don't know, like maybe I pick manufacturing. I'll tell you about that. The interesting AI applications for image models in manufacturing specifically. So it to figure out these use cases, right? I learned that these people are very deep in the problem. They know a lot of things about what are happening there. Now let me give you some example. There is a car manufacturing company, and what the whole that entire company does is they make doors. You know, the frames for the doors, that's what they make. Now what they do is
Yeah.
that they have a big press which stamps on the stainless steel or iron, whatever, and they make doors. Now they put a camera right next to it, which just takes a picture of the door and what the camera is trying to figure out if the entire door has any micro cracks or not. That's all the AI model does, right? You put
Yeah.
it there and it detects cracks in that door or not. And that is what it's supposed to do. So that helps that company for if the car is bad, that the door has a crack or something, the company will have to pay a huge amount of money, 5,000 to $10,000 per car. So that specific model has like $1 billion TAM.
Yeah.
Imagine like tiniest of use cases people are doing. Then there's one more interesting model in manufacturing or factories, you can say. So what that model does is you put a microphone on a machine. And this is live in production right now. You put a microphone in a machine or you put a video camera in front of the machine. What it does, it keeps listening to the sound of that machine. That's it. There's only one input, the audio wave from that machine. And the model's only job is to predict if the sound is not how it used to be. That which means that the machine
Yeah.
has some problem and it needs to be looked at. That's all that model does. And my God, the applications of this model are insane. Like
Yeah.
Coca-Cola has to run 24/7. Every single manufacturing plant in the world for electronics, like you make light bulbs, you make bottles, plastic, whatever, has to run 24/7.
Yeah.
Like the TAM of this one audio model, which can do this, is gigantic and insane. Then another pretty interesting application for one of our users of API.market of one of my pip feed API is a Spanish news radio station. They're using our AI models. So what they do every day, they have like 100 news articles or 100 news items that they want to speak on the radio in Spanish. So what they do, they use the API that I have built to get a proper um, summary, like 5 point summary.
Yeah.
And they
Yep.
create a paper, like they print out a page and they give it to their newsreader who uses that. So there are some of the interesting AI applications that I have seen in different industries. Again, we have not even scratched like tiny bit surface. Like they are
Yeah.
so many AI applications, just apart from the obvious ones. But it's you gotta be like you gotta know your domain really well to figure out if this problem can be
Yeah.
solved by AI or not.
Yeah. One of the best things you can do is get out there and talk to people and network. And if you go to industry networking events like manufacturing events and like just talking to people,
Yes.
you just the volume of job roles out there is off the charts, and a lot of them are, on blue collar factory field jobs, all those sorts of things, which are much harder to find.
Yeah.
You can't sit at your desk generally and find those things, which actually is a better place to be from a competition point of view. Like everyone's building like a customer support chatbot,
Yes.
right?
Or a sales
You get a lot of competition if you're going to go into that space.
Yeah, the boring businesses are the best place to make money in the world. Like going to like a manufacturing or a compliance or taxes or sales or accounting or all those or agriculture, all those kind of boring industries is where most of the world makes like a lot of money
Yeah.
and less competition.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Let's grab another question here from this is from Lily Chen. Our app handles sensitive family and health data. How do you think about security and data privacy when using third-party AI APIs?
Interesting question. So I don't know like what specifically you mean by the family and health data and what is the categorization of that. But in healthcare and in banking, you pretty much cannot use ChatGPT unless you are using it through OpenAI Azure in a VPC and you have a few things set up like they will not record your logs at all. Otherwise, I would not recommend using third party AI APIs. Like, avoid using them unless you know that they are not saving your data, where you're absolutely assured about it. Or I would recommend, if you can, run a model in a GPU yourself. Like, take an open source model and run it through your own cloud, deployed wherever, and use that instead. There are also like serverless things available right now on Replicate and RunPod and Inferless, the three companies who make serverless GPUs. That is pretty affordable. Yeah, but AI and compliance and data, it's a bit messed up right now. It's not hard. It's not easy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a difficult space.
Yeah.
Let's see. James Wu here has got a question about integrating AI into operations optimization, but the upfront costs and complexity seem huge. Is there a lightweight way to experiment before fully committing?
Oh, nice question. So, this AI, integrating AI into operation optimization, that's a pretty broad term. It could mean a lot of different things to me. Okay, what are you trying to optimize for? But anyway, if you're trying to put AI into anything, what you gotta do is, what anybody would do is like start small. Pick one specific thing where you think you can make some improvements there without having a huge budget or huge complexity or a huge failure cost there. Start small, and you don't have to integrate everything like fully automated from day one. It can be ad hoc, which is like, I don't know, I'm taking an example. There's an Excel sheet which needs to be categorized, summarized, this or that, and then something needs to happen with that Excel sheet or combined or merged or augmented. You can use an AI agent separately for that and try to automate the manual process one by one and then look into it. If you go with a mind, hey, we're going to use AI for our entire operations optimizations, that is going to be really, really hard. Right. So,
Yeah.
yeah, break it down into small problems, tackle them one by one with AI as you can.
Yeah, 100%. Always a good way to tackle any problem is to break it down into small parts, right? Awesome. Let's grab one more question here. This is from Thomas Alvarez. Everyone's using AI for hiring filters or chatbot assistants. How do we stand out if we want to build something truly innovative that's not just AI washed?
Yes, interesting question. Yeah, you know what happened? I think like 8, 9, or 12 months ago, every startup put AI word into their thing, even if they were not doing AI in any way at all. Now, first of all, you don't have to be an AI startup, right? You don't have to put AI into your products or anything. You can use AI in your company to build products, to run your company, and do all those sort of stuff. You don't really need to have AI into your product. Like like YouTube doesn't sell AI. They're using AI for recommendations in the end, but you never interact with the AI directly. Gmail doesn't have that as well. Reddit doesn't have AI, right? There's so many products, so many actual deep tech. Stripe is not an AI company. They are using AI for a lot of things inside the company, but they're not selling AI.
Mhm.
So first, I'll tell you that think if you actually AI is helping your customers or not. In the end, are they going to interact with the AI, or you can use AI in your company to do a lot of stuff? That is good and fine. Now, how do we stand out if we want to build something truly innovative and not just AI washed? Is that you answer your question and you answered it yourself. Don't build what everybody else is building. That's the easiest way to
Yeah.
stand out. Uh,
Yeah.
it's an interesting learning I had. So I never used to understand what does differentiation mean in the startup world. Like a lot of times, what you feel is that okay, there is a product out there already, and I'm just going to build a better one of that.
Mm.
I'm like, okay, that should be good enough, right? Like that is fine and everything. But then I realized, wait, differentiation gives you a power. Like if you're very, very, very different from everybody else, then you are not the second or third kind of option. You're like, okay, we go with this way or we go that route. Now it's a 50
Yeah.
50 somehow in a different, and you stand out. So almost all the people like good entrepreneurs they will recommend just be different for the sake of it. Like just do something that you are different in your name, in your branding, or the way you're solving the problem, or do something that will get you customers much faster and better and more sticky and more open-ended customers is what you want when you're starting out. Right. So
100%. Yeah. And I would say start off more personalized is another way. I mean, it's the niche conversation. We did a webinar on that yesterday. But I think one of the things that we all struggle with as founders is we're building products at scale. So we want to capture, big markets. But if we start out with that mindset, it means that our products are necessarily generic from the get-go instead of being more specific. And when you really start to think about it, and this is quite counterintuitive, when you really start to think about it, you can create a very, very niche version of your product for a particular sector, whatever your product happens to be. Because, let's face it, if you think you're going to get, I don't know, 50,000 users in the first, 5 years of your product or 2 years or whatever, in the first 6 months or 12 months, you're probably, not going to get more than 5,000 users.
yeah,
That's just the way that the growth journey works, right? So you can start off in a very, very narrow segment, which means you can create a better product experience because it can be more personalized and more specific to solving a problem. And I love the Alex Hormozy phrase of delivering dream outcomes for customers. If you don't know what the dream outcome is for a customer and you can't deliver it, it's very unlikely that you're going to get to product market fit. And again, I think this is one of these things that unfortunately we've been kind of mistrained on as founders, just like the build it and they'll come, build an MVP. We've been mistrained on that to build an MVP and launch it and we'll be successful. The same with being more customer focused, because historically software's been very expensive. And so solutions have been pretty generic. And I look at the CRM space. I like sort of picking on the CRM space. Those tools have failed in so many implementations because they haven't been able to be customized for the particular company they've gone into. And now we've got the opportunity with AI to create really properly customized solutions that actually work. And I think it's a huge opportunity, but it's also it's disrupting the pattern of software development that we've had for the last 20 years or more, which is build sort of generic software.
yeah.
And as engineers and as startup founders, we're used to building generic software and letting the customer do the last 10%. That's not going to fly, in my opinion, going forward.
Yeah, I think let's see. how people are gonna, it's gonna be interesting to look at software in the future. Like the cost of building software has reduced by a lot. And I think this term, right, AI washed, and this is kind of the fault of, you can say, VCs and media. Like VCs loved
Right.
if you didn't have an AI thing in your first slide, they were like just not interested. So people like, yeah,
Yeah.
okay, we'll have to put AI into our thing, or the we'll never be able to raise money. But the customers don't really care about that. They're like, if you're solving my problem or not, I don't care if you do it with AI or not AI in the end.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Just reading the comments, I can see from Dovi and Roan here that they're talking about exactly the sort of things that we recommend: is start with the problem, get passionate about the problem,
Yeah,
focus on niches. It all makes a ton of sense. Know who your ICP is. I mean, that's all super good
yeah,
advice.
absolutely.
I love listening to Ben Evans. I don't know if you know him. He's a technology commentator, ex Andreessen Horowitz, I think, and one of the big VC firms. He's got his own independent sort of consultancy, but he talks about what are all the problems with the large scale up tech companies now. They're not technology problems. All of Netflix's problems are media and entertainment problems. They're not technology problems. All of Amazon's problems, in the retail space is like retail problems. They're not technology
Yeah,
problems.
absolutely.
And I think we can forget that in the startup space, that we're building technology, so we think really technology focused, but actually we're just solving business problems.
Yeah, absolutely. In the end, like I tell you an interesting thing. So at API.market, we sell AI models. Like they're pretty hardcore, deep tech and everything, right? But for example, we were selling this to an amusement park company in USA. Like they're a
Mhm.
big one in there right now. And then you got he said, hey, but so this AI application, what it does, when you go at amusement park, you used to have these cutouts. You put your face in there and take a picture. So we have AI model. It can take your picture and put into a theme, like Star Wars theme or a Indiana Jones theme and everything. And when we started going deeper, we realized, wait, it's a lot of other problems in there as well right now, not just like the tech thing, right? It's like, hey, my face is not
Yeah,
looking good, or the lighting, or this or that, and like, I'm like, oh, okay. Then you go into like the
yeah,
business of the real world instead of
yeah,
the tech kind of stuff there. And even though we're selling
yeah,
AI models in the end.
100%. Yeah, and actually, Ben, you've asked another question about how can we leverage AI to conduct problem or product validation to large numbers of potential customers.
Mhm.
I think it's a great question, but I also think that the reality is that if you're able to find information online using AI, you're probably behind the game. I think someone said to me 10 or 15 years ago when I started in the investing space, is if startup founders come to you with investment reports, or sorry, market research reports, like you're probably too late to the market. If there's professional companies that are creating market research
Oh yeah,
reports, you're probably not on the front end, right? You've got to go and manually collect that data. So it's frustrating that sometimes it's manual and slow, but that's often the
yeah.
reality.
So like, okay, in this question, right? If you're building a startup, there is the best data that you can get on in the world. The most reliable one is talking to the customer. There is no other alternative to that in the world. You can do a Google search, read reports, get this, get and things from analysts, do all the stuff. But in the end, you got to talk to your customers.
It's all lagging information, right, compared
Hey,
to what the current needs are.
yeah, you need to talk to customer first. So that will teach you two things. First of all, who are your customers? And I'm surprised how many startups have no idea who their end customer is actually, and they have built out the whole
Yeah,
thing without talking to the customer. Like how? How do you do that? Right?
yeah,
Who are you building for? So if the two things you got to figure out: first, how to reach your customer where they are. They most probably they're gonna be on LinkedIn or somewhere or WhatsApp. Talk to them, like actually word to word. Talk to them, not emails or anything. Talk to them in a call. And
yeah,
second, you need to
100%.
figure out is, do they really want it? Are they gonna pay for it or not? And that you can only and only get by talking to people. All the market reports about billions of dollars of TAM and 50% growth per year, blah blah blah. All those don't matter in the end.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And it's often, your understanding. If you're a technology founder, it's often your understanding of what the technology can do that the customer doesn't understand. So they're not even thinking that problems can be solved because they've just resigned themselves to the fact that these are sort of unsolvable problems, or we just have to use the way that we're going to use it. So they're not thinking about it. So until you get into that dialogue and start asking questions, this is why surveys don't work. This is another common problem that we see with a lot of founders that we work with, is they come to us and say, I've done all these surveys. And it's like, well, that's not going to get you where you need to go. You need to have a two-way dialogue. So when the customer says something, you can actually respond to that in real time. And that's where you discover the real opportunities.
Like, for example, Shopify, right? They started with a website for selling surfing equipment. That's what the founders were really into, like surfing equipment. That's it. That was the whole plan, to sell surfing equipment online. But they would talk to their users a lot. And the users told other people, hey, they are selling something themselves. They're not using a marketplace. And then they started getting more people in. Hey, we also want to sell stuff like you. Can you give us your software or license or whatever? And they kept talking to more people. They kept figuring out, okay, what is this? We love, surfing is a different life and vibe and everything. So they were like, yeah, we're happy with selling this and doing this. But because it talked to so many people and the customers and everything, they realized, okay, this is what we can do. We can build Shopify actually as a place for everybody to sell stuff. So that's one big superpower you can have. Talk to your customers and talk to them a lot and more often.
100%. Yeah. Well, on that note, I think we're coming to the end of the hour. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on, fountain of information and knowledge on the journey. Tell us more about how anyone on the call can get access to API.market and who's your ideal customer, and what's the solution you provide.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I mentioned in the podcast previously, I started API.market because it was really hard to find good AI models and APIs that you can use. My hypothesis was that anything an agent is going to do is going to require an API in the end. And it was just so hard to find APIs back then, and even right now, to find all the good models that work all the time. So yeah, visit API.market. There's an AI model or an API for everybody. Figure out there's an image to video, there's text to video, there's image editing, there's code writing, there's maps, there's flight data, all sorts of stuff you can find there. So that is one place you can find if an AI model exists that can solve your problem or not. So yeah, it's pretty simple. Everything will have a free tier, so you can go and try out any AI or an API model right now. Just sign up using an email, no credit card required. And if you have any problem, if you see the right blue icon on the right side, you can click that and send me a message. I'll reply. I always reply.
Awesome. Excellent. Well, thanks so much, Shashank. Well, if there are any founders on the call today that are interested in more clarity and support for your startup, of course, at LeapSheep, we have a professional startup coaching service, but we have this fabulous offer that if you're a startup founder that's frustrated with your traction and progress, and you want to know exactly how to achieve startup success, we have something called a Startup Builder Strategy Session, which is 2 hours of your time. It's $480. There's a money back guarantee. And I think it's the best 2 hours of your time you can spend as a founder, and the best $480 you can spend. And if it's not, we'll give you your money back. So there's a link to book that session there. If you're not sure that you're ready for that, just have a chat with us. I'm very happy to jump on a call and have a chat with you about your startup and your goals, and if we can help. Look forward to our next session, I think, which is on May 16th. We're fortunate enough to have Catherine Farley from ADLV Law. They have a specialist practice working with startup founders. They've worked with us. We've worked with them. They've worked with dozens and dozens of the founders that we've worked with. And it's really, really, really important to have a lawyer that understands that the legal frameworks that you need to build a startup are things that you can put in place over time, and having a roadmap so you don't have massive legal fees up front. I see a lot of founders that spend way more than they need, and other founders that spend way less than they need. So it's all about having that sort of Goldilocks zone in the middle. And if you've got any legal questions, it'd be great to have Catherine on, and we can talk about that. So once again, thanks so much, Shashank. We'll call a close on today, and we'll see you guys in 2 weeks.
Thank you, Kirk.